Sports. Husker Rewind.
Welcome to the circus.
Harris went out, two-point sideline, 50-50 ball, it's picked off! The black shirts with the dagger, Malcolm Hartzog with a giant pick, sails the night for the Big Red. We're done, Huskers win! Golly, grandkids!
They are storming the floor. Love it. Sign your name, Fred Hoiberg. There's your signature win.
The Nebraska Cornhuskers have run the table and run it back. Back-to-back Big Ten tournament champions.
Here's Tom Stevens and Mike Melby on Lincoln's Husker Radio, 1499.3 KLIN.
Sanford has 29. Mast has the ball. Gives to Sanford. Falls down into the hands of Mast somehow. Back to Sanford. 12 on the clock. Sanford shoots the three. Bang! A bang, a bang, a ringo. Sanford, now he's got that 30-burger. It's a double patty 30-burger for Christ Sanford. And it's loaded. Onions, pickles, relish.
Delicious. Nebraska, of course, gets another win, 25-4 yesterday. A game that kind of concerned me going in. Felt like Nebraska had to win one of two in Los Angeles. They get the first. Now they have a chance for a sweep Tuesday night against UCLA, a team that's tough to beat at home, especially after a loss. And they lost this weekend. Nebraska, though, improves to 25-4, 87-62. Total domination in the second half. It didn't look that way in the first half, though. They were down 5. Sam had a couple fouls sitting on the bench, and you were wondering, is this the time where they don't come back in the second half? Because they always do, and they did again. Sam comes back. His plus-minus was plus 21, and he was fantastic. You look at his stats, and you think, what did he do? He didn't score 32 like Sanford, but he just makes a difference when he's in the game, and Nebraska has a chance for even a more special season. They're probably going to get the triple bye. It looks like they're going to get the triple bye.
They need one more win or a Purdue loss to be guaranteed.
Right. And I think that, you don't feel maybe as good about the UCLA trip as you do Iowa at home. You've already lost to Iowa. You kind of want to serve up something on a platter to those guys. Because of the way you lost in Iowa City. But Iowa needs to win that game. I think they're safely in the NCAA tournament, but they want to improve their seed. They want to make sure they're in the NCAA tournament, and they would love to have a quad win at Nebraska.
Well, they would. UCLA is going to be tough. UCLA has only lost one game at home. It was to Indiana in overtime. So it's going to be as tough of a road environment as Nebraska's faced all year. Not as hostile. You know what I mean?
There'll be a lot of Nebraska fans there.
Yeah.
There were a lot of Husker fans at USC.
Yeah. Speaking of Huskers in LA, they're going to the Clippers-Pelicans game tonight to hang out and cheer on Tyronn Lue and Bryce McGowens.
Nice. That'll be a fun trip. I've been to one NBA game, and it was in Lincoln, Nebraska.
I was there too. Bulls and was it Pistons?
Yeah, Michael Jordan,
Dennis Rodman, and
have you been to any other NBA games?
I have not. I've been to probably half a dozen NHL games, and I've actually only been to one NFL game. And that was in 1975, Dallas Cowboys and Green Bay Packers.
We've got a guy that played in the NBA on our show tonight, Erick Strickland, the Nebraska Hall of Famer, played 9 years in the NBA. I want to ask him a few questions about this defense because everybody talks about Nebraska's aesthetically pleasing offense. But this defense, Strick, maybe the best defender of all time at Nebraska. Sam.
One of, and I mean, all-time steals leader, Cookie Belcher, I think, is probably going to be considered the best
on-ball defender.
I think Jamarcus Lawrence is a better on-ball defender than Strick was and than Sam is.
Whoa. I'm going to tell Strick you said that.
I just saying, and that's coming from Beau Reid as well.
Yeah.
So,
but Strick will tell you the reason he played 9 years in the NBA was because he guarded both Jordan and LeBron.
Yeah.
He guarded guys that were 6-7 inches bigger than him. I think he was on I'm trying to remember. I think he was on the All NBA defensive team one year. He was a really good defender. That's what kept him in the league. He also had that beautiful lefty stroke. It always looks good coming from a lefty.
Well, and just the athleticism to be able to do what he could do. I mean, Braden Frager's, I think, a couple inches taller than Strick, maybe 3 inches taller than Strick. But at the same time, Strick's athleticism, his explosiveness was unmatched by many. I mean, there was maybe a handful of guys in college basketball when he played that could match him athletically. And in the pros, there was maybe 5% of the league that could. He was just that gifted athletically.
I would play Hoiberg clips, but there weren't any that were listenable. They interviewed Fred Hoiberg in a hallway in LA.
Yeah, I saw that.
I mean, it's like, and it was just, it's irritating to play that on the radio because the mics just aren't very good.
Well, they pick up everything.
Yeah. And so I didn't even record that conversation to listen to it because it's helpful to have the information, but I just didn't play it this week because I didn't want to. I mean, it didn't sound very good.
So you and I were texting during the game yesterday, and the one thing I want to ask you, I alluded to the pomp and arrogance of USC's team. Like their entire team, to me, reminded me of a Deion Sanders coach team. Anything and everything they do, regardless of their record, demands respect, and you need to bow down.
They were talking a lot of trash during that game.
They were, and I specifically, Chad Baker-Mazara, as talented as he is, that is one of the most emotionally crippled human beings I think I've ever seen in sport. I mean, whether it was if it's a good play, he's at 100. And if it was even a mediocre play, he's at 0. And when he wound up getting hurt, he looked like he was ready to just ball.
And thank goodness he got hurt for Nebraska. I mean, I think Nebraska wins that game anyway, but he had 14 at half. So he ends up at 14. He didn't play in the second half. He's a really good player. USC is one of those teams that reminds me of some of the teams Nebraska's had in the past. Loaded with talent, but they just have what everybody talks about Nebraska and what they love about Nebraska is the connectivity.
They're connected.
They're really connected. USC doesn't look like a team that's connected at all.
Yeah.
It looks like a group of guys that are really talented that are playing for themselves. And you can win games like that. You can win games just because you have a load of talent. But there was a point during the season where USC was an automatic for the NCAA tournament. And now they're looking on the outside in.
Nebraska didn't have as much talent as USC does this year, but it's to me reminiscent of the 22-23 team with Bryce McGowan's.
Right.
To your point of
a little bit
very disconnected. Yeah, I mean, it was there were clicks off the court, there were clicks on the court, and it all centered around one person and his brother. And if it was almost uncomfortable to watch at times in 22-23, just because the selfishness.
There have been other times as well.
True, but this team is
they've got a 5-star Elijah Arenas. You remember Gilbert Arenas, one of the most fantastic shooters I've ever seen in the NBA. His son Elijah plays for USC, and he's going to be a stud. He's 6'6", 199, so a little bigger than his dad.
Just okay. So with every game we play, because we got Price Sanford from Iowa, and he had some fun against us in the games that he played against Nebraska when he was at Iowa.
Is it just me, by the way, on Price? Is he getting better?
Yeah.
Is it even possible that he's getting better?
Yeah. And I say that with disappointment because I'm like, don't get too good to where you're going to be a potential first-round draft pick.
He's played himself into the NBA draft, maybe even a late first round.
I don't know about that. I know
Baylor Shireman was. I'd take him over Shireman.
Yeah. His game. Yeah. Well, let's face it. We're down by 15 at half if he's off. And if he decides to just start launching threes and he's a little bit off, it's one of those stretches where he only makes maybe 2 out of 10. Instead, he doesn't shoot the 3 and he drives and he winds up with probably 6 points in the paint that I don't know how many guys on our team go get outside of Sam and Braden.
He's become a very good rebounder, 23 defensive rebounds in the last 3 games. From a guy that looks like maybe sopping wet, he weighs 180 pounds. He doesn't spend as much time, this is just me making a prediction, in the weight room as Sam Hoiberg does.
Probably not.
He probably does go in
But,
there to look for, maybe get a drink of water or something like that. And I'm not
here's-
saying, I'm not bashing him. I'm sure he lifts weights, and some guys can add weight more easily than others. And he's only a junior. Sam is a fifth-year senior.
Yeah, but the difference to me, just from I don't want to compare him to Chad Baker-Mazara, USC's best player. Mazara had played a stretch without a much of a break, just like all other 10 guys on the floor had, for about 6 minutes there, coming up to the under 4 timeout. Okay. And he is so gassed. He's walking up the floor. The second he gets across half court, his hands are on his knees. He's panting. I mean, to me, it's a kind of a narcissistic move of, I'm so tired. No, give me the ball. Give me the ball. And it, like, I can't stand players. It reminds me of Shadur Sanders. And
you notice that stuff more than I do.
But it's this exhaustion thing. None of the rest of his teammates are acting like that. And no one on Nebraska's team is acting like that. And then you watch Connor Esigian on ensuing possessions Price Sanford on ensuing possessions.
I didn't think he had played.
Yeah, sorry. But you watch Price on ensuing possessions, who as well did not get a break, right? He'd been playing the vast majority of the game. I think he played 38 minutes, if I remember right. Yeah, 38 minutes. And he's running as fast as he has the entire game.
You see that stat where he runs like
traffic.
6-7 miles a game?
Yeah.
Like just runs.
But
and it's like wind sprints for 6 miles a game.
But if you want to talk about weight room, I'll take what Price Sanford is doing in the weight room from the conditioning standpoint.
No, don't. I'd say
Holy
if it
smokes.
helps you get skinnier, because you're just playing great. Don't change anything. He's 6 threes away from breaking the Big Ten season record for threes.
Yep.
And we had that conversation. Is he the best shooter ever? Now, it's not even a conversation. If he breaks the Big Ten record for threes in a season, he's the best shooter ever for Nebraska basketball.
I'm still going to go Pike, just because if Pike's
a better overall player, probably.
I was going to say Pike just has.
I'm not even sure about that now.
Yeah. Pike had a little bit more hops. I think Pike would have done a massive tomahawk versus the two-hand.
Oh, he definitely would have done the tomahawk.
But no, so Sean Respert, and you're talking the 1994-95 season when Respert set the record, and I believe it was an 18-game schedule for the Big Ten back then. So and Price can tie or beat the record in 18 games if he winds up with 6 threes against UCLA, and Nebraska may need him to get 6 threes against UCLA. Like I said, they've only got the one loss at home, but unbelievable. Or I guess that would then be in 19 games, but yeah, what a season. 75 made threes in Big Ten conference play. He's up to 105 or 6 now in the season.
Yeah.
I don't know. The interesting thing, I have not had this much fun watching Nebraska's seeding. Even in the 90-91 season, there wasn't all the bracketologists and all that type of stuff, and you just kind of hoped, because we were, right there close to the top 10, that we'd be a top 3 or 4 seed, and we were 3, played Xavier. But all the years Nebraska's made the tournament, we're like, man, if they just get on a roll here and win these last 4 and then win maybe 1 or 2 games, they can get up to a 6 seed.
We are never in this position where they're already in the tournament.
Yeah, and now we're like, you know what? If they went out and win 2 in the tournament, so if they beat UCLA at UCLA, they win against Iowa at home, and they win 2 games in the tournament, tell me they're not a 2 seed.
I know. I've seen a couple that now say Mike DeCourcy says they're a 4 seed.
Well, that was before yesterday's game. He's got him back up to a 3. He's got him as the 11th.
Does he?
He's got him as the 11th overall team now.
Okay. Well, I know we're sometimes doom and gloom, and I think we're conditioned to do that as Nebraska basketball fans. But at half, I was a little worried. And then I shouldn't have been, because Sam hadn't been playing. He played 7 minutes in the entire first half, sat on the bench because he was in foul trouble. And Fred is one of those strict guys where you get 2 fouls, you're not playing.
Yeah, there's been like twice this year, I think, that he's had somebody come
Sometimes
back
he'll
in.
bring like Mass had him a couple of games ago, had 2, and he brought him back in at the end of the first half just for an offensive
defense.
an offensive defense
rotation
thing. But he sticks to that. I mean, he's very disciplined about not playing guys that have 2 fouls. And it's not, I mean, if you look at the stats, you think 7 points, 5 rebounds. What did he do? You have to watch the game to understand the importance of Sam Hoiberg.
The plus 21 to me is telling, and it's not really a reported stat. It's a huge thing in the NBA. I was reading an article earlier today that an all-star NBA player that winds up with a +6 as an average for the year is somebody that you're like, oh my goodness, this guy might be the greatest of all time. And Sam is continually on the +20s side.
Plus 21 in this game.
Yeah, plus 21 in this game. Burke plus
24.
But the stat that I never see reported, and I know Nebraska keeps track of it internally, is deflections. Because go to Burke's steal in the first half, third possession, I believe, that USC had. Sam's the one that messed that whole play up with the deflection. USC got it back, but then a lazy pass because of the deflection and the pressure from Sam allowed Burke to jump in the passing lane. And that's what I mean.
He didn't cause the play, but he caused the play.
Yeah, so he got the second assist here.
That steal earlier this week against Maryland, against Solomon Washington, was ridiculous.
Yeah.
He gets the steal and then bats it right to Frager, and Frager gets the dunk. And those things just change a team. Like they're like, if he's willing to play like that, because Nebraska didn't play defense like they did in the second half. At the end of the first half, I'm going, where's the passion? Where's the grit? Oh, he's sitting on the bench. And he's inserted into the game in the second half, and everybody just feeds off his energy.
The cinematic recap for the game, and brilliant job by Husker Vision again in the UNL social media department. What they've done with go back to the Chasing 3 series, like all of it, it's all so good. But there's cinematic recaps where they have some national guys and the pregame stuff or postgame with what they're saying about the team, the locker room stuff that they're showing at halftime. And it was telling yesterday, as you knew, based on prior postgame comments from Coach Hoiberg, that it was probably a safe bet that him and Coach Lenzer weren't going, come on, guys.
No,
we could do better. It was probably going to be a little heated, and it was, but it's never mean-spirited, derogatory. It's always get back to us.
Right.
Like you guys didn't play like, and it's always us.
Yeah.
It's not yourselves. It's us. It's always us.
And because they're an older team, you can do that. Sometimes younger team, hell, I didn't like to be yelled at as a player, in high school basketball. And you just kind of have to know your team when they're older like that. Rink isn't bothered by it. Sam's not bothered by it. These guys know what they're getting, and they accept coaching, and not every player does.
See, and when I got coached in high school, the little bit that I played basketball, and then as a golfer, you don't get coached a whole lot, hard. But my coach was scared to tell me anything because my uncle was the golf coach at Crete and had wild success there.
Yeah.
And so he didn't want to tell me anything. And then I'd go to my uncle, and then my coach in Waverly would look like an idiot or something. So he never said anything. But when my coaches, the little that I did play in high school basketball wise, would get after me and I mean, yell and scream at me because I was, lazy or loafing or made stupid, whatever. I played, but I loved it. It was one of those where I'm like, I'm going to show you. I mean, yeah, I made a mistake, but here, let's, I don't know. I liked getting coached that way.
Yeah, I do after the fact. It's like going to the gym and getting a workout in. You feel great after the workout, but I don't like being yelled at. I really don't enjoy that. But these guys, because of their maturity, can take it, and they know it's constructive criticism. The Hall of Famer, Erick Strickland. In fact, how often do we have two Hall of Famers on the show? We have Beau Reid coming up later at 6 o'clock, and then Mike Schaefer really should be at the Hall of Fame, of course, and he'll be on the show at 6:25 tonight of Husker Max. Mike Schaefer, so really good show. I hope you hang around for it. Mike Melby, Tom Stevens, more after this.
Join Mark Patrick Hypno
the most complete weekly recap of Husker sports.
Kaboom! And their body bumping and away.
Husker Rewind with Mike Melby and Tom Stevens on Lincoln's Husker Radio, 1499.3 KLIN.
Sanford has 29. Mast has the ball. Gives to Sanford. Falls down into the hands of Mast somehow. Back to Sanford. 12 on the clock. Sanford shoots the three. Bang! A bang, a bang, a ringo. Sanford, now he's got that 30 burger. It's a double patty 30 burger for Price Sanford. And it's loaded. Onions, pickles, relish.
Welcome back to Husker Rewind. I'm Mike Melby. That's Tom Stevens.
Hello.
And it's interesting how many times news breaks between 5 and 7 on a Sunday afternoon.
It does.
But breaking news, and Tom and I are here to fix it since it's breaking. Chad Baker-Mazzara, who I called emotionally crippled based on his performance yesterday, is no longer a part of the USC basketball program in an announcement this afternoon from USC.
Do you think it's possible that it wasn't an injury in the second half?
I have no idea. Well, no, he played in the second half. He fell when he blocked the shot of, I believe, Cale Jacobson is who he blocked.
I don't
on a layup.
He went out very early in the second half.
It was like the second or third possession, but he blocked a shot, fell kind of awkwardly, laid on the ground for 30 seconds. I don't know. You could tell trainers are trying to talk to him, players, and he rolled over, ripped his tape off his wrist, walked straight to the locker room, came back out about 10 minutes later, game time wise, wrist was taped, and he went and sat on the end line with the fans.
Wow.
And he stayed there, and the announcers were like, we don't know what's going on.
Wow.
Evidently, he's not coming back, and heating pad on the knee and blah, blah, blah. Like you said, I don't know what's wrong with this young man, but there was obviously something going on.
Gifted basketball player.
Oh, truly gifted. But at any rate, he is no longer a part of the USC basketball program, and I think they're going to be better off without him, to be honest with you.
Wow, that's crazy.
Let's go to the Summit Lawns talk and text line and talk about the pressures of college basketball and definitely some NBA stuff as well with Nebraska Basketball Hall of Famer Erick Strickland. Strick, how are you doing this Sunday afternoon?
Well, I'm doing wonderful. Can't even complain. How are you guys today?
Doing
Very
good.
What do you make of this? 25-4. You played on some great basketball teams, but this team didn't have the talent of some of the teams you played on at Nebraska. So how are they doing it?
I mean, there's just one thing that you can see that Coach Hardberg was doing from the minute that he got here. He wanted specific types of players. He wanted an archetype of style. He wanted shooters. And then I think he found something. He found something in Derek Walker, right? And it was the thing that I think was the missing link for them that helped to kind of get him expand the vision of what he saw. And then he went out and found Brent Mass. And that was a huge find as well. So with those things, he found something within that system that he could build around. Keisei Tamanaga comes. And then he got a chance to see it a little bit. Now what he wanted to do is solidify the defensive part of things because there were still some weaknesses there. And he got the guys to buy in. And that was a key component as well. So he was able to go into the transfer portal, find guys like Bryce Stanford, get guys to do play above their weight, and that's where you get Sam Hoiberg. And then on top of that, got guys to buy into the system, didn't break any bridges, gets Jamarcus to come back, and you got a solidified team, and that's what they were able to do. I've been quite impressed with what they were able to put together.
Erick Strickland joining us on the Summit Lawns talk and text line. Strick, Rink Mast was a candidate for Big Ten Player of the Year very early in this calendar year, about a third of the way through the season. He's been in a bit of a slump. The sickness obviously had an effect as well. He seems to be, to Tom and I, like our very novice knowledge of the game, like somebody who's just lost some confidence. What do you see the difference being in his game November and December versus currently?
Well, I mean, there's got to be frustration. Obvious. I mean, you have a major injury you get in last year, and then you get back to full strength. You're looking good. You're feeling good. And then these little pop-up things, it can be frustrating. And that's the mental part of the game that sometimes we don't speak about, how those things play. And so he's got to play it out. He's got to play his way through it. You got to simplify the game in some of those instances. And what I mean by simplifying the game, get back to being just your strengths. Your passing, get in the post, get fouls, get to the free throw line, do things like that to where you can start to see the successes again, and then compound those successes and hopefully get out of that slump.
Every player is different. I'm sure you went through shooting slumps. Everybody does. How do you handle them? I mean, how do you like it handled with you? Did you want people talking to you? Did you not want the talk? Did you want to meditate? How do you get out of slumps, in your opinion?
I mean, we were fortunate to have, a great psychologist in Jack Stark. So if we needed to talk through it and we needed to, meditate, he would, walk us through those processes. You want to get into a routine. And what I mean by routine, there's people that you might have to cancel out. There's time that you may have to not spend with your girlfriend. Those added pressures that could be put on you. You may have to eliminate some of those for just a period, not for the whole, your whole time there on campus, but just for a little bit. But then get in the gym. Just get in the gym. It's either one way or the other. You get into the gym and you work on your game, or you stay away from the game. Because I think you guys will understand what I mean by that. So I'm a golfer. I like to play golf. And as much as I do practice at times, I seem to have played my best when I'm take time off.
Yeah.
And I'm not on the course, and I just go out and I'm free. So I'm not thinking about swing mechanics. I'm not thinking about shooting mechanics. I'm not thinking about all these different things. And you're able to then get back into just the ease of the game, as opposed to the pressures and the thoughts that get in your head with regards to the game.
Nebraska obviously plays a beautiful style of offense. The cutting, the backdoor movement, just watching Price Sanford is so much fun. But we talk a lot about the offense. I don't think we talk enough about the defense. I think you would have fit well into this defensive system, one of the better Husker defenders I've ever seen. What do they do on defense that's so effective as you watch?
I mean, it's a style that I'm very familiar with. It's one that we played in a way too when I was at Nebraska. It's influence baseline, no middle, force skips, rotate. So it's a lot of that involved in it. Get in people's face, pressure, create turnovers. So, Sam is kind of a version of me with that, doing the kind of things that I do, just being wrecking havoc all over the place, being in people's, heads, probably their best offensive players. And, but what they do is they're very disciplined in that they know and they understand what, the offense is trying to do. It's to take away some of their best things that the offense does. And then, they do force tough shots, but where they've gotten themselves into troubles in some of their losses is not putting bodies on people, which they were doing very early in the season, and securing those rebounds. Whenever they allow themselves to get out rebounded, that's where some of the problems come in for them. So they've got to correct those things.
Strickland, let's go back to a stretch of 11 days where they played 4 games. February 7th, a win at Rutgers, then a loss at home to Purdue, a win against Northwestern at home, and a loss at Iowa. 4 games, 11 days. One of the things that was noted by numerous beat writers and a couple of national guys is, especially during that Iowa game, Nebraska looked tired. They looked run down. They looked like they needed a break. The team that I watched yesterday did not look like a team that was tired. It looked like they got their legs back. How do you think they did that?
Well, they went through a stretch with some injuries. Prager was down, and then I think, who was it? It was Frager and
Mast.
There was another key player, Mast. Yeah, I mean, so two of their three high scores were down at Michigan, and yet they still almost pull that out. Losing at home is always tough, and there's things that I know that Fred took them into the film room and do some study to correct some of those errors, which they were able to do. But they're not very deep, and that's where a lot of the issues come from. They especially in that sequence there where guys are trying to come back. You still don't have your lungs. I mean, you can't duplicate that kind of or simulate that kind of intensity on a treadmill or on a bike. You can't do it. So it takes a little bit of time, and if you're thrust back into it, quickly into the heat, into the heart of it with travel as well and school and whether it be breaks or just getting back on the court, their wind may not fully be there, which your legs are not there and your shooting's off or whatever. So your game is affected a little bit. And I think that's what they went through, but they were able to get it back, and they played pretty well on the road. I think, getting on the road for them has probably been one of the better things because they seem to unite themselves with us against the world type of mentality and go out and play really well.
Yep. Obviously, they played really well all season long, 25-4, looking at a triple bye for the Big Ten tournament. But we do know the story, and we're sick of hearing it. Last Power 4 team not to have won an NCAA tournament game. Is this the year they break through, in your mind?
Yeah, I'm going to be honest. I think seeding matters, and I think matchup matters. There are certain types of teams that could probably give them trouble. The very disciplined, very big, strong, physical, athletic, and guys that can really break you down and get buckets, with a guy or two of them. That's kind of like their kryptonite a little bit. But so I think who they would match up with, where they go. I mean, Nebraska fans travel everywhere, so I don't think that's the issue. But I'm saying where they go and who they match up with, I think is going to be a key to them, going deeper into the field.
Strick, love having you on. We'd love to have you back.
Sure. All right, man. Thank you, guys.
Appreciate the time. The Hall of Famer, Erick Strickland, 9 years in the NBA, Hall of Famer at Nebraska. I think he would fit so perfectly on this team.
Oh, my goodness.
I mean, he could shoot the three. I remember a game where he had 7 threes against Missouri one time, 28, 29 points, and just was on fire. And that lefty stroke just always looked better to me. He could play deep.
He had the way he shot it left-handed too. He had an unusual release that was as purposeful of a release as I think I've ever seen anybody shoot with. I just loved the way that, and you and I would play pickup and stuff like that, play basketball every once in a while, and I would try to mimic it. Obviously right-handed, but I thought his release, his shot was so beautiful to watch.
And maybe if you were to have a discussion about the greatest athletes in Nebraska history, just athletes.
Well, the list
he played baseball.
With
He could play. He did play professional baseball. He played obviously basketball at a really high level and a professional. 9 years at the NBA, but played, I think, 1 year as a football. I mean, he tried football briefly.
He made, if I remember right, he made it through one practice.
Yeah.
And was like, yeah, this is.
But he was a great high school football player.
Yeah. I think if you're talking best athletes in the history of Nebraska athletics, one of the ones that I would throw out there is Axelina Johansson, who just won the Big Ten indoor shot put title. She's unbelievable. A couple of track and field ones. But
Erstad,
as far as
Turner Gill, I mean, those guys that played multiple sports.
Yeah, but I Strick is literally he's in the discussion with anybody that you say is the best.
Like I would put Erstad up there just because he was a phenomenal high school hockey player.
Yeah.
Really good football player, great baseball player, and I probably did 10 other things really well.
Yeah.
So I'd put Erstad and Strick as far as on the men's side, head to head, as among the best. Let's get the break, come back with more. Spring football is going on as we speak. Well, not as we speak. I don't think.
Maybe they're in the film room.
Who knows? I hope they're practicing at something. I hope they're practicing getting better, even if it's in the dorm room. Nebraska football spring practice. We'll talk about it coming up. Mike Melby, Tom Stevens. It's Husker Rewind.
Titles
Man, woman, and child did that. Put them in the aisle.
on Lincoln's Husker Radio, 1499.3 KLIN.
Nobody on the road, nobody on the beach. Feeling in the air, the summer's out of reach.
It's flown out, Ribby double and grounded out to third. Also reached on a fielder's choice. Next to him.
Oh, that's a deep drive. Left field, off into the Auburn night. It's gone. 3-run bomb from Jeske. It's now 9-5 and perhaps the dagger in the 10th. Emphatic stop of home plate for 1-3.
They get the win 9-8, but barely hang on against Auburn.
10-9, actually.
Was it 10-9?
Yeah, they had to score one more run, and then Auburn scored 3 in the bottom of the 10th as well. So,
okay. Well, I thought it was 9-8, but anyway, nonetheless, Nebraska gets the win.
Oh, you know what?
On
You're right.
Friday
Never mind.
night. Friday night, they get the win.
It was because it was 5-5 going into the 10th.
Right. But Jeske, a big part of that. But they hit the ball. I think this is a team that can hit the ball. Pitching is the problem. They get run ruled last night 15-4 with a ton of walks. 12 more walks today, 3 hit batters, and they fall 12-3. It's something that I guess I didn't see coming with Rob Childress, who demands that you throw strikes from his pitchers. I just didn't see that coming.
I didn't either.
But if you're going to demand pitchers throw strikes, you got to get pitchers who can throw strikes.
Well, they thought they had them. I know that.
And it's early. We've seen this so many times before. Nebraska still has 2 wins over top 15 programs. Auburn's number 7. Florida State last week, that was a nice win, and they dominated Florida State. I think this can be a good team, but you got to get pitching figured out.
That they do. They got a homestand coming up, believe it or not. Omaha Tuesday, Wednesday, South Dakota State, and then they kick off Big Ten play this weekend, or this coming weekend, Friday, Saturday, Sunday against Michigan State. Then they're still home for North Dakota State on the 11th, then the 13th, 14th, and 15th against Maine. So they've got some teams that they can beat. They've got time to figure it out. They'll have to do it when it's a little chilly out.
Yeah.
But that's
But
Nebraska
you see
in
this
the spring.
It seems like every year. You know, this was the best start in Nebraska baseball since 2005.
Yeah.
They started 3-0. Now they're 5-5. You've seen so many years, at least I've seen so many years, where Nebraska digs a big hole because they go to Texas, Florida. They play these teams every year. They dig a big hole. They're trying to build an RPI, and they lose a lot of these games. So you'll see some of the time where they're like 2-8 or something like that at this point, and then they build up their record by playing lesser teams, and then they have to get hot to make the NCAA tournament. 5-5 is not terrible considering the competition they played.
No, but the way they lost, especially this weekend, is concerning.
Yeah, when you win Friday night, you want to take the series.
Yeah, somehow, some way, even if it's, hey, we didn't lead until extra innings again, but we won 2.
Right.
And don't get run ruled. I think, would have been some goals, but
that would have been fun. What else happened?
They got one.
What else happened in Husker sports this weekend?
You know what? Over the week, obviously yesterday, Nebraska men knock off USC 82-67. In case you didn't catch it, breaking news from about 15 minutes ago, USC's Chad Mazzara,
Baker Mazzara.
Baker Mazzara is no longer with the program. He went up and blocked a shot of a Nebraska player about 2 minutes into the second half, fell down, landed a little weird. It looked like one of those where he probably dinged something, but he laid on the ground for like 30 seconds, got up frustrated, stormed off the court, ripped his tape off his left wrist, came back out of the locker room 10 game minutes later and sat with the fans. So at any rate, Nebraska also won 74-61 against Maryland last week. They sit at 25-4, 14-4 in the conference. New record for most wins in a conference season. One away from tying the 90-91 team with 26 wins in a season. And Price Santfort is 6 made threes away from setting a new Big Ten record for made threes in a conference season with 80. Currently has 75. Sean Respert of Michigan State in the 95 season had 80. Nebraska at UCLA on Tuesday. Sunday, it is senior day with Iowa coming to PBA. Husker women won at Washington 66-65. Earlier in the week, Britt Prince stepped back 3. That was last Sunday. And then beat Rutgers 93-52 yesterday. They're going to be a 12 seed in the Big Ten tourney. They play Indiana on Wednesday. If they win, they'll play Ohio State Thursday.
And some projections have them as maybe the last team in.
They have to win 2. I think they have to win 2 to get in. And that's not to lock in. I think they have to win 2 to have a chance to get in.
A couple of bad things happened. I think they thought there was going to be a 5th year for Alexis Markowski. We've talked to Andy, her dad, and he was made aware that there was a good possibility that a 5th year was coming for college athletes. So they thought maybe they get Alexis back. They had counted on Natalie Potts being available. She wasn't. You add those 2 players to this team, they're very good.
Well, you don't expect Allison Widener to go down again either.
Right. Well, maybe you do. It's been so many times with Allison.
Yeah. Baseball, as we just talked about, they went on Friday 9-8. As Tom said, not me. Don't listen to me in my 10-9. I have no idea where that came up. Anyway, they get run ruled on Saturday 15-4. They lose 12-3 today. Congrats to Dylan Carey, connected on his 200th career hit as a Nebraska Cornhusker. Softball went 3-1 on the weekend down in Oklahoma. They split 2 with Oklahoma State. Today's game was canceled, and then they knocked off South Dakota State and Tulsa. Next Thursday to Sunday, it is the Big Red Spring Classic with 2 versus South Dakota State and 2 versus UNO. Track and field, congratulations to 3 Husker track and field athletes who won gold. Rihanna Phipps won gold in the triple jump for the women. Axelina Johansson won in the shot put. 63 feet 10 inches was her throw.
Wow.
And then Dyson Wicker won the only gold for the men in the pole vault. Overall, women got 4th, men got 9th in the Big Ten Indoor Championships. Looking forward to seeing the whole team out in the brand new outdoor facility for some meets this year over by Devaney and the Icebox. Drive by it all the time because I live like half a mile from there. Anyway, beach volleyball won their first 3 matches of the season over Ottawa. That's Ottawa, Kansas. And Trinidad State and Wayne State. And then they've got 8 matches scheduled for this week.
Hey, there you go. Thanks for that Husker news, Husker headlines with Mike Melby. Spring is almost here. The spring game has been moved way up this year to March 28th. Matt Rule has spoken already a couple of times to the media. This is Matt Rule talking about his new quarterback, Anthony Calandria.
I think the energy and sort of the playmaking ability that he has, when they bring pressures, he's able to either get the ball out or get outside the pocket and extend plays. So, he plays fast. He's got a lot of, when I say energy, it's easy to be excited. It's hard to have energy every day. And I think he has a lot of energy and a very competitive player as well.
The thing I've noticed about all the Rule bites that I've heard so far in the spring, he is dialed it back. He has dialed it way back. There is no hype to the point where you're thinking, does he like his team? I think he likes, every coach at this point of the season likes their team. But he is backing away from any sort of hype about anybody. Doesn't matter if you're Anthony Calandria or anybody else. He doesn't have an Emmett Johnson. He's at the combine. He doesn't have a superstar that I can think of. Who's Nebraska's superstar on this team?
You hope it's Anthony Calandria. Other than that, is Owen Chambliss going to do enough from the defensive side to be an impact guy with maybe 2 or 3 picks, maybe a pick 6, gets some sacks, leads the Big Ten in pass breakups, maybe leads the league in tackles. Yeah, it's the sum greater than the whole, or the sum of greater than the whole of the parts, or whatever the saying is. We're talking about Nebraska basketball. I don't know. Nobody does. With the transfers coming in. At the end of the day, I think part of it as well is Nebraska's 19-19 in the last 3 years. You can go out and do the hard sell in the pitch, and we're going to be great and do all this
because nobody's buying it.
Nobody's going to buy it. You're 19-19.
Yep, he knows that.
Realistic approach. I don't know.
At least he's smart enough to read the room and dial it back a little bit. There, obviously, the big question mark about this team last year going into the spring camp and then into fall, and it proved to be a big concern that was correct. The defensive line. Jasir Whittington is arriving. He's now practiced for a week. Are we a weekend? With the Nebraska football team, defensive tackle, a bit on the small side, 6 foot 170. How concerned is Rule about that?
He's an explosive man. Watching the film of him at Pitt and then seeing him out here now, no concerns, about his size. He's got great explosive movements. He can move laterally, and he kind of plays at one speed. He plays 100 miles an hour. And I love this tape, and I've really liked what I've seen so far.
He's apparently a pretty good pass rusher. Riley Van Poppel, you're still waiting for Poppel to pop for Nebraska. You haven't had that Ty Robinson, Nash Hotmucker combination. When Nebraska's good, they have a good defense. That's the big question mark, because it seems like they like the offensive line. They spent a lot of money on the offensive line. I think they like their quarterback. They brought in some a really good wide receiver from UCLA. They didn't bring in a running back. That was one of the big question marks. Emmett now at the combine, as we said, in the NFL. but I think they like the room with Mekhi Nelson as possibly the lead guy. I don't know. I think still the number one question mark is defensive tackle for me.
From running back, just from what we've read and heard, I have a feeling that you're going to see, if there's no injuries, I'm not going to be surprised if Jamal Rule is starting at running back by the conference season.
Actually, they did talk about Rule. Did you know that?
I did.
I think all of us have been really impressed with Jamal. I think he's a natural runner. You know, he's a freshman, and he's already 210, 208, 210. So he's big, he's fast, he has good vision, very conscientious. You know, I was leaving the other night, and I think it was Wednesday night, he was coming in to, go back through the install one more time and catch some balls in the jug. So, he wants to play. So I think he's a really good prospect and a guy that, is competing to play.
Hopefully he can play. I'm not really worried about that position group. We'll see. I thought Mekhi Nelson played really well in the bowl game.
Yeah, I thought he did too. I'm still waiting. Like Isaiah Mozee, for whatever reason, will make the first 7 people miss, but he still only gets 3 yards. Well, and I don't know if it's an east-west, north-south thing with him, or I don't know.
I think there was a learning curve with Mozee because he was a wide receiver. He was brought in as a wide receiver, committed to Oregon, then changed his mind. His dad is a coach on the staff. And then they decided that they saw something at running back for Mozee, and that's where he played. There's got to be a learning curve when you've never really been a running back.
True. And like I say, his elusiveness is just outstanding to me. And maybe it's just one that, he hasn't been able to break that one last tackle. He's making guys miss, but with him making guys miss, he's side to side, and others are able to come get him. The biggest question mark I have is, does Ja'Cory Barney figure out how to break the first tackle? Because if he's got open field, he's gone. It just seems like it was too often that I thought he got brought down too early. I don't know how you coach that, how you teach it, how you go into the weight room to counteract that. But I that's what my hope is for anybody, for their improvement from last season to this season. If he breaks that first tackle, he may have an All-American season.
They've gotten bigger with Quasi Gilmore at wide receiver and Isaiah Hunter, who we've already seen what he can do. Yep. And then you add Barney, I think, and then they get Bonner back this year.
Yeah, Janiron Bonner. Holy smokes.
So I think wide receiver could be his strength, but we've said that the last couple of years, and it's not really panned out.
So I'm going to throw out a weird comparison. Janiron Bonner and what he does or did before the injury, to me, reminds me a little bit of what Sam Hoiberg does for the basketball team. He makes the blocks, he makes the reads, he does the little things that don't wind up in the stat sheet that ultimately means success on the field. And it's not as big of an effect just because he's, you've got 11 guys out there or 10 other guys instead of 4 other guys. But Janiron Bonner was a guy that just simply made all the smart football plays that needed to get made, especially down in the red zone. And that's where Nebraska struggled mightily last year after he got injured.
I want to talk a little bit about Emmett Johnson. We'll do that next hour. But there are whispers, and they're getting louder, that Doug McDermott at Creighton may be leaving. The Blue Jays fell at home last night to Providence. They're now 14-16 on the year, 8-11 in the Big East. Rumors that he could retire or maybe go to Arizona State. I don't think he retires.
No.
But this was supposed to be a great year. Josh Dix, Owen Freeman, the Iowa transfers, they had one of the top portal classes in the country. Everybody thought they were loaded. But Jackson McAndrew got injured. They just had a lot of things that didn't go right. And it looks like McDermott could be leaving Creighton. Do you think he will?
Yeah, I do.
Yeah.
I would put it at a 95% chance that he is not back in Omaha next year. Whether he retires or whether he goes to Arizona State or goes somewhere else, I don't know. Does he become a TV analyst for a year and then recharges the batteries and shows up at Butler or at who knows where, Washington State or something? I don't know. But I don't think he's in
He
Omaha
doesn't
next
seem
year.
like an Arizona. He doesn't seem like a big conference guy, but maybe he is.
Quick question:
The
Who do you
Big
think
East is a big conference.
Who do you think replaces him?
Dana Altman? Bring back Dana? I don't know.
I don't know. You have to ask Jim Pillen's permission first, I believe.
He probably would. What I think about is maybe Omaha will open back up for Nebraska because Creighton's gotten all the good guys. You know, the Kyrie Thomases, the Trayshawn Thurmans, those types of guys. Nebraska just hasn't gotten many since Dave Hoppin, it doesn't feel like.
Yeah.
Although they've got a pretty good one this year from Lincoln Southwest. Braden Frager is okay. Hour number 2. Beau Reid is on the air with us next. Husker Rewind, 1400 KLIN.
On Lincoln's Husker Radio, 1499.3 KLIN.
Welcome back. It is Husker Rewind here on 1400 KLIN. Mike Melby, Tom Stevens, along for the ride on this Sunday afternoon. We are, as they say in the business, efforting Nebraska Basketball Hall of Famer.
We are.
Beau Reid. Huskers with the big win yesterday, 82-67, behind 32 from Price Sanford. And just overall, the numerous national pundits and members of the Big Ten Network that are the Mike DeCourcy's, the Bruce Webbers, Raphael Davis, even Dave Revson, who was on the call of one of the games recently. The connectivity, and you mentioned it last hour, they play with this innate, bizarre. I'm going to equate it to I believe it was on Apple TV Plus, a show called Pluribus. And in the show, the world is taken over by an individual where they all, or a species or whatever it is, where everybody has the same brain, basically. They all know everything about everything. And they're all connected. And to me, this Nebraska basketball team kind of has this innate ability to understand with, where one guy goes by their knowledge of, maybe they don't see it. I know they have to be able to make the play or whatever, right. But maybe Cale Jacobson drops his right foot instead of his left, which tells Rank that he's going to need to cheat. But defensively, there is just this bizarre not bizarre, it's awesome connectivity and communication on the court. You see him talking all the time. It's a pleasure to watch. And you alluded to, everybody talks about the beauty of the offense, but the beauty of the defense. I rewatched the game like I always do last night, and I was kind of mesmerized by the defensive effort in the second half.
It was night and day, though, with Sam on the floor.
It was. He's the catalyst. He's the linchpin there. But at the same time, just the way they move, the way they read, and I know where they're supposed to go when I see a play being made.
Right.
Like from just watching the team this year.
And it allows them to win games with their B or C game. Remember when Tiger would win just because one facet of his game was just so far beyond everybody else, but it was still his C game or his B game. Maybe he was driving really well, but he wasn't putting great, but he was still, Scheffler's kind of like that. If he putts well, he's going to beat you by 10. If he putts okay, he's going to beat you by 5. Nebraska has the ability, because of their defense, to beat you even when they're not shooting.
Well, in Tiger's comment, I still remember the comment. I don't remember what tournament it was, but he won by 6. And he goes, I had my C game all week.
Yeah. And
it just royally irritated everybody on the tour.
Well, and now Scheffler's kind of doing that same thing.
But to your point, I remember I don't remember what game it was, but Sam Hoiberg in the post game said, okay, so for those of you who said that we only win if we shoot well, there you go.
Yeah.
Essentially. So evidently we can win when we don't shoot well.
I don't know if we're going to get a hold of Beau Reid, but this is, have you heard you've read the column by Steve Sipple, Things I Know and Things I Think I Know?
Yeah, I read everything. By
we all do. I've kind of taken that on about Nebraska basketball. Things I know about Nebraska basketball. Hoiberg's plus minus is always off the charts. And yesterday, as we mentioned early in the show, 7 points, 5 rebounds, 2 assists, was it? He only had 2 assists. And you think, how could he have affected the game at all? 2 steals. But if you watch that second half, you understand why. He's one of those guys you have to watch to know his value. I mean, Sanford, you can just look at the stats and say, oh, I get it. He had 32 points and 6 threes or whatever it was yesterday. You get it with Sanford. And he's aesthetically pleasing as well. Hoiberg, you really just have to watch him closely to understand. I don't remember the last Nebraska basketball player. I think he's the first to affect a game as much as he does without scoring.
Well, I'm like, there's got to be somebody. I don't know. I think you're right. Just from the defensive presence. I mean, Juwan Gary could, but it wasn't consistent. He could score as well, but if Juwan was having one of those nights and he wound up, 1 of 7 from 3 and he missed 5 layups, kind of which was his game some nights, he still would affect the game because he'd have 6 rebounds, 5 assists, and 4 steals and 2 blocks. But it was never consistent. Sam's never 1 for 7 from 3 though. Sam's 1 for 3. Sam's never
against Maryland. He had 12 points, but he only took 4 shots and made them all.
Yeah, but that's what I mean with Sam Hoiberg. The way he plays the game, he's never 3 for 15, but had a bunch of rebounds, assists, steals, whatever. He's 3 of 7. It's just that innate ability to know when the shot needs to be taken, and his ability to finish at the rim, regardless of size, is almost as good as I've seen
with
in
either
recent
hand.
Memory. Yeah.
I've noticed that about several players. Sanford can finish with either hand at the rim. He's getting great at that. That's why I say, is he getting better? I think he's getting better. He finishes with either hand at the rim, has some great moves around the basket. Frager finished with his right hand, and Frager used to be exclusively left-handed going to his left side. He finished at the rim yesterday and had 15 points or 14 points and 8 rebounds in that game. These are other things that I think I know about Nebraska's basketball team. Rink mask is still in the slump. but at least now we know he can dunk. When was the last time he dunked? And that was a smash.
That was a frustration dunk.
That was, I'm angry, and you don't think I can dunk? Well, take that. Because that was a one-hand tomahawk. But Rink is still struggling. He had the nice game against Rutgers. He had a pretty good game against Purdue. But you mentioned it when we were talking on the phone before the show. He hasn't had a game like BYU. I know it was an exhibition game, but he had 7 threes. That's the Rink we were getting 2 years ago. And we haven't gotten yet. And if they get that from him, they're like automatically, they're a national championship contender.
Well, I told you, I said, if Rink gets out of the slump and starts playing like he did the first 10 games of the season, and you get kind of equivalent, just expected play of everybody else, which includes Jamarcus Lawrence, I want to talk about in a minute, Nebraska is literally a serious contender to win a national title in basketball.
Are you one of those that when you're in a slump, either golf or whatever sport it might be, basketball in this case, do you want to be talked about? You want, because Strick's point was, hey, get off the course. Sometimes it's easier to improve your swing if you don't think about mechanics all the time. He was referring to golf, but maybe it's the same thing in basketball.
Well, and to that point, he stated, some guys, and you did too, is some guys can take getting coached hard, and some guys you just need to pat them on the back and say, figure it out. Anytime I was ever in a slump, and golf was really my main sport, if I wasn't playing well, I normally would be frustrated and mad about it for 15 minutes after the round and have a outburst or two on the course. But literally the next day, I had no recollection of that prior round.
But were you headed to the driving range or were you headed home?
Oh, I'd be headed home. I was just, there's nothing. I can no longer have anything to do with what just happened. I can't make the round any better. So am I going to go beat myself up? Am I going to go when I had the day before the state tournament, my senior year in high school, it was at Alliance Country Club. And I'm not going to say why I was not feeling well, but I came out the day before in the practice round and I shot 102.
Right.
And I came back and shot like 75 in the state championship. And it was only one round back then. And I got like 11th or 12th. But it wasn't, and when it was over, I wasn't upset about it. I wasn't on the driving range. I wasn't at the practice screen. I just literally went back to the hotel, ate dinner, forgot about it.
Again, we talk about this team being able to win games with their B or maybe C+ game. It's not only Rink. Jamarcus Lawrence hasn't been himself for a while.
So do you want to know
2 or 3 games?
You want to know his stats over the last 3 games? 25% from the floor, 6 of 24, and 2 of his last 14 from 3.
Yeah. And again, does Jamarcus want you telling him that he needs to get in the gym more? Or does Jamarcus want you to just say, hey, you'll figure it out?
To that point, let's go to the intangibles. Okay, we were talking about Juwan Gary would have, horrible shooting stats, but he'd still fill up the stat sheet. So during this 3-game stretch that he's 6 of 24 from the field and overall 2 of 14 from 3, he only has a grand total of 7 rebounds, but he also has 17 assists, 3 steals, and with 4 turnovers yesterday, he has 5. Yesterday, from a turnover standpoint, he was not good, but he's affecting the game elsewhere, especially with the assists. And it's not like he's putting up a ton of shots, although he was 4 of 11 against Penn State. 1 of 7 and 1 of 6 the last 2 games. I'd rather see that than 1 of 11 or 12.
Right.
So he's figuring out, hey, it's not my night. He's passing the ball. He still has everything about his game when he's not sped up, which if you watch the cinematic recap of the game, Coach Hoiberg talks to the team about that.
Yeah, slow down.
Yes, slow down. When he was not sped up yesterday, he was brilliant. When he got sped up, he turned the ball over 4 times.
Yeah.
But he's got to shoot better. Got to shoot better.
So they're not getting a great Rink right now. They're not getting a great Jamarcus, but they're still winning. And a lot of it has to do with, obviously, Sanford. Sanford is ridiculous. He's having a first 10 all Big Ten season, in my opinion. He's going to set the 3-point record, I believe. And then you have Fearless Frager back. That was something that Fred Hoiberg talked about. Obviously, the ankle was a concern. And when it happened, we all thought, oh, no, you might lose him for the season. and then you lost him for a couple of games, but it still lingered.
So you kind of lost him you lost him for about 4 games. You got a guy.
He had a
back.
nice game against Illinois, but it was mostly just a 3-point shooting game. You didn't have the you didn't like. I said he had, I think, 15 points. He had 17 points, 8 rebounds, but because it never looks like he's trying. It almost looks like he had 21 against Maryland, but it never stands out like Price does.
That was when he wound up with 21 against Maryland and the game was over and they said, I think he hit a 3 or something and it gave him 21. And I'm like, when did he score the other 18? Like, right. I remember a couple of shots, but
because he gets the free throw line a lot. I mean, Nebraska doesn't have a lot of those guys that can get to the free throw line because they don't drive, even though I think Sanford's going to get there because he's driving more often. They don't shoot a ton of free throws, but he does because he's able to get to the rim. But Fearless Frager does seem like he's back. Almost to the point where, and I know Bear K, we all love Bear K. Would you start Frager over Bear K?
No. I like the roles they're in just because of the fact that, and Frager played fine the 2 games that he started. But Berkay, to Coach Hoiberg's point, in one of the questions he was asked was about Berkay's play yesterday, and he said he's probably our player of the game. He was plus 24. Yeah. He affects the game, and kind of like Sam Hoiberg in ways that you just simply don't get. You don't see. He's the one that has the tip out that Jamarcus or Rank is able to grab for a rebound. He's the guy with the deflection that Hoiberg picks up for a steal.
Yeah.
Like he's the guy that has that block shot that changes the momentum of a run of another team. He's just that guy all of a sudden. And when did he become more that guy? When he stopped taking 5, 6, 7, 8 threes a game.
Yep. I like the fact that sometimes he takes a shot and you're saying, what are you doing? Nice shot. Because he makes it. And then other times he frustrates you because he plays like a freshman. But that's what he's going to give you. You kind of have to live with it. But he also makes the plays like he did against Maryland where he tipped the ball, then went all the way down. And that shot off the window, high off the window by Frager.
Was brilliant.
That was ridiculous. I mean, that's a horse shot that you couldn't make 1 out of 10 times.
Yeah, that's like that hit the edge of the top of the back.
Yeah, and that's what he was trying to do. Because he had to lift it over a very tall guy. He's ridiculous. I want to get back because Frager kind of leads into this conversation about Nebraska getting more Nebraska kids. Obviously, they have Sam, they have Kale, and I think it's led to the resurgence of Nebraska basketball. But those are both walk-ons, and nobody recruited either of those guys. Nebraska recruited Dave Hoppin really hard and almost didn't get him. They recruited Kerry Trotter and didn't get him, went to Marquette. Ron Kellogg went to Kansas. Cedric Hunter. These are all Omaha kids, by the way. Cedric Hunter, Kansas. Chucky Hepburn, Creighton. Justin Patton, Creighton. Hunter Salas,
Gonzaga.
Well, he danced around different schools.
And then South Carolina.
Kyrie Thomas, Creighton. St. Thomas, just played his last year at Michigan State. Trayshawn Thurman, Creighton. Andre Wolbridge, Nebraska, but then ended up in Iowa.
Yeah.
Rich King, Mike McGee. Rich King obviously played at Nebraska. Mike McGee, that's the one that got away. Man, that guy, and if you don't remember Mike McGee, he went to Michigan and exploded, then played a long time in the NBA. I think he's still the color guy for the Los Angeles Lakers.
Might be.
I think.
But, I mean, don't forget, you also had the Terrence Badgetts. And if you're talking Nebraska kids, the Bruce Chubbucks, the Andy Markowskis. I mean, Nebraska's got, and when they were their most successful, it was Nebraska kids, the catalysts of it back in the 90s.
But they haven't gotten what I'm saying.
Recently they haven't.
Creighton. And maybe that was the part of the conversation about Doug McDermott that I meant to bring up, and we ran out of time, top of the hour, that if he leaves, maybe Nebraska starts getting all those dudes. Because Hoiberg, it seems like he's second. Like Amari Bynum is now playing at Ohio State, and he's very good. You remember Andrew Bynum in the NBA, his dad. Andrew Bynum was much bigger. Like, he was a beast. He played for the Lakers. He was like 7 feet tall. But Amari is a big kid, 6'7". He's playing at Ohio State. Maybe he transfers to Nebraska. Who knows? But Nebraska recruited him hard. He ended up at Ohio State. Maybe now McDermott moves on, if he does. Hoiberg is the beneficiary of a really good city for basketball in Omaha. Because I think that's been the missing link for Nebraska. It's sure you can recruit guys, and I love Colin Rice, and I love Jacob Lanier. I think the two freshmen coming in are going to be fantastic.
By the way, Colin Rice last night put up a 50 burger.
Did he really?
Yeah. I know Kent's all excited about the onions and pickles and the 30 burger, but Colin Rice put up 50 last night.
Got to meet Jacob Lanier. He's leading the state of Arkansas in scoring, 26 a game.
Yeah.
And they've got a chance at some more dudes. But it goes against what Nebraska really wants to do is get old and stay old. Do you want to load up on high school freshmen? I guess you do if they're as talented as these guys, Rice and Lanier.
Well, and the flip side is that class, I'm throwing this out because it is a possibility. That class could still grow by one, and the one is the number 3 ranked player in the class of 2027 that may reclassify to 26. His name's Ryan Hampton, and he will be in town a week from today on an official visit to Nebraska. This is a guy that, again, he's the 3rd best high school player in the class of 2027 that has the ability to reclassify to 26 if he wants to. And if he does, Nebraska is one of the schools he's considering very seriously.
Isn't it fun to talk about Nebraska basketball and they're good? Potentially great.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah. They're not good. They're really, really good. And it could be such a special season. One game in the tournament. Maybe I'm getting greedy, but I'm thinking 2 right now. And maybe more. Let's get to break. Come back with Mike Schaefer of Husker Max and the Unemployed podcast. Mike Schaefer is on the way next.
Hi, Hoiberg, this guy that we've got to see evolve over 4 years in a way that few Nebraska basketball players have really done throughout their career. I mean, we watched him go from being a redshirt coach's son, bench warmer, inserted against Maryland and picking up a big charge. And the Derek Walker, Sam Grayson era to, I think a guy who's going to have all Big Ten votes from coaches when they're doing that here in a week or so. And so he's been an incredibly impressive player this season, and getting to watch his rise sort of goes right along with what Fred Hoiberg has been able to do here at Nebraska. And it's as big of an explanation for where Nebraska is as anything else. And obviously it's not just Sam. You've got Price Sanford putting in 30-point scoring efforts now routinely. Like, that's become a thing that just sort of happens at Nebraska basketball now. Rink Mass 2 years have been nothing short of terrific. DeMarcus Lawrence coming back. So you have all of that. But I think you can't really tell the story of this season without starting, I think, with Sam Hoiberg and just the giant piece of it. And there's a lot of other branches that extend off of that tree. Nate Lenzer and his incredible value to this organization with his toughness and what he's able to bring to them on the defensive end as sort of the defensive coordinator. We've seen the best version of basketball under Fred Hoiberg with the aesthetically pleasing offense combined with the dogged pursuit that they have defensively. They're a very veteran team that plays well together in an era where you have a lot of mercenaries. They don't have many of them. And so I think if you're boiling it down to one thing, it starts with Sam, but of course it branches off in so many ways.
You mentioned Sam, and I think I would agree. And I told Mike this earlier in the show. I think he's the first Nebraska player I can remember, at least to this degree, affecting a game without scoring. He had 7 points, and I know he sat a lot of minutes in that first half, but he does it all the time where he can affect a game and not have to score.
Yeah, I mean, his ability to just be a pest, to sort of, annoy you on both ends of the court with what he can do defensively, certainly, and jumping passes and baiting people. His ability, I'm telling you, like, you can see him, depending on where you're sitting in Pinnacle Bank Arena, you can see him set up the opposing team by dropping into these areas where it's like, oh, I can't see this guy. And then you try to skip past and he's like right there. It's like he morphs into being Ed Reed, and turns into this free safety playing coverage in that regard. And then on the other end of it, I mean, he's so good with the basketball that when he does have 2 turnovers in the same game, you're like, what in the world has happened? Is everything okay with Sam? Like, should we be concerned right now? And it's just how good he is at protecting the ball, but then also setting up his teammates. He's gotten so good at getting into the lane and now finishing with some up and unders. I mean, this is a guy, and everybody says this, and I think it's said, when that sort of happens, when everybody sort of says the same thing, it's not because anyone's just so smart that they've come up with it. It's just obvious. Like, he's a little bit taller. We're talking about a guy that clearly would be extending his career playing in the NBA instead of someone who's likely to take one of our jobs as he gets into the sports media business. So, he is he's a really, really talented player, but he doesn't have to score to really bring that presence to Nebraska. That's why it's possible to me that he could end up being, a first-team All-Big Ten player, even though you don't think about scoring at all. It's every other piece of it. And when he needs to put the basket in the hole, he has that ability too.
Mike, I'm going to jump in and say, when Tom asked you the question of when you think back on this season so far and, maybe, going back and reliving it a little bit, what are you going to think of first and most and all that? The very first thing that popped into my head was one word: joy. And it's the way that they play. To your point of how unselfish they are, when Burke got the and one early in the second half off the feed from Price Sanford, there's an end zone shot of Sanford celebrating that play. And to me, he celebrated like they just won a natty. Like, he was so happy for Burke.
Right.
And that is the connectivity to me that I think all of us in the media are talking about. Where does that come from? How do you from the world of assassins and hired guns and college basketball and NIL, and all I care about is money and me, Chad Baker Mazzara. How is Nebraska this connected in your mind?
Well, I think it stems from they're a little bit of an island of misfit toys. I mean, you don't end up at Nebraska playing basketball if it has gone exactly the plan for you in every other facet. So you've got a guy in Frager who redshirted and is as good of a freshman as there is in the conference, maybe save for Keaton Wagler and Hans Steinbach. I mean, those guys are lottery picks, and I think Frager's going to be an NBA player. I think that's a real conversation we can have down the line. So he's not that far removed from him. And then you've got guys like Rink Mast, who came here from Bradley. You've got Price Sanford, where it didn't work out in Iowa. You've got Jamarcus Lawrence, who left and then realized what he had here. And so I think there's that. I also think part of what has allowed Nebraska to do this in an era where it's hard to find this is that they could do it kind of quietly on their own terms. I mean, we all know how last year went and then how it finished with the Crown Championship. And I think their ability to rewrite that season, I mean, instead of being the team that lost 5 straight games or whatever it was at the end of the year, they turned around and they won this event out in Vegas, and people mocked it at the time. And now you look back on it and it's like Cale Jacobson becomes the player that he is because he has the opportunity to do that. Nebraska sort of finds themselves in their style and who they want to be going forward because they have the opportunity to do that. They get lucky in that Price Sanford is the exact perfect player for them in this situation. They're fortunate that Rink Mast chose to come back for an extra year of college basketball, and he's the right guy that they need for it. And so there's just no, I mean, you guys have seen it in the interviews and everything else. There's no personality on this team that it sort of thinks that he's above everything else. They seem to genuinely enjoy playing with each other. And I promise the listeners right now, that is not true of a lot of Nebraska basketball teams. Yeah. I can think of several right off the bat where they have teammates who would refuse to pass to each other on the court because they were feuding so much in the locker room. So, I mean, it's having that makes everything else easier. When you like who you're playing with, it's easier to go into battle. And I think there's an element of trust. And then they also, they're good. I mean, that's kind of a part of this that it's people wanted to discount what they did a little bit. I shouldn't say discount. They wanted to only say that, Nebraska started off 20-0 because they were disconnected and they gelled. And that's all true. They're also just good at basketball. We watch a lot of basketball over the weekend. There's not many teams where you're like, oh yeah, Nebraska they couldn't stay with them. There might be nights where it doesn't go well, but there's a reason this team hasn't lost to anybody in the quad 2 level. There's a reason this team only has 4 losses. There's a reason this team has come back from 15, 16 down multiple times. There's a reason this team has, in my mind, set the Nebraska record for double-digit wins or, victories by double-digit points in a single season. I don't know if that's a real thing. If Seamus McKnight is listening, let me know. But this is just who they are. They're a good basketball team that likes to play with each other and has a full understanding of what they have to do to go out and win basketball games. That's why the Iowa game just caught me by so much surprise. That's the closest that it's been this year to a team that I don't think represents them at all. And I think they want to avoid that. And they know what that looks like now. And we saw on Saturday, after a rough first half, Hoiberg gets after them. They played outstanding in the second half. Doesn't hurt that Chad Baker Mazzara just randomly quits the team in the middle of a game, but that's not their problem. They went out and they played, and they made USC quit on the court.
Well, you mentioned Hoiberg. Maybe he's a first-team coach's pick. Price Sanford maybe has played his way into an NBA pick in the first round or late first round, second round. Looks like he might land on the Big Ten. So you're right. It's not just that they're connected, which is what everybody likes to say about them. They're really, really good. They have really good basketball players. But more than that, for me, they're fun to watch. If you watch college basketball, it's all ball screens anymore. And guys going one-on-one. Nebraska plays in a way that I think for the NCAA tournament will be not only fun to watch, but fun, hard to defend. How do you think they'll do in the tournament? Because Strick talked to us earlier, and he thought it's about matchups for this team still.
Yeah, it definitely is. I mean, part of what scared me with USC is that's a really athletic team. and they're not fundamentally sound, and they're not particularly good on skill, but they're just really athletic. I mean, when they struggled against Maryland earlier in the week, in the midweek, it's just a really athletic team, and they were making some circus shots that kept them hanging around in a game that they ultimately lost by 13. USC was giving Nebraska some issues, and then Nebraska missed a bunch of 2-footers, things that shouldn't happen. And they corrected that, and they came out and they played harder. I mean, so for me, it's very much I think they'd be a tough draw if you're coming on a one-day prep. I think the hardest thing for them is and this is the fun part about it, we're talking about a program that hasn't won a single NCAA tournament game, but if they were to get to that second weekend, you get that matchup against, if they're a 2-3, you're playing the other there potentially if there's no upset. And that's going to be a really tough game. But then you turn around, whoever you play after that, they aren't going to get any time to prepare for what Nebraska is. Now, Nebraska won't have as much time to prepare either, but Nebraska hasn't changed its style. Like they chase and they play dogged defense, and they rely on ball screens and freedom of movement on offense. And, that's just kind of who they are. I think that they have the ability to make a run in the tournament because they're just going to be a difficult team to play. And I think they're good. And so, we'll see, obviously, when we get there, what the matchups and everything looks like. And there's certain teams, I mean, if they match up with Houston, that's a much more challenging thing in my mind than if they catch a UConn or an Iowa State or somebody like that in the 2-3 game. Like if you get a Florida, their athleticism is going to be a problem. But it doesn't mean Nebraska can't overcome it. Look at that Michigan game. That team took the best team, or one of the best teams in the country, to the wire, playing with just 5.5 players that night, with no offense to Leo Curtis, who was huge in the 5 minutes of which he played. You weren't prepared to sort of play that style of game, and you went against one of the best teams in the country and nearly stole that game. So I just think, I don't think you can count them out at really any point. That's another part of this that makes it so much fun. Like, this is a team where you don't question whether you're getting everything from them. You know it because you're seeing it on the court.
One of the prognostications right now has Nebraska playing in the Midwest region with Michigan, the 1 seed, Nebraska, the 3 seed. And I texted Tom as the game was winding down yesterday, and I said, I want Michigan in the Big Ten title game, because I think with a fully healthy roster, even with all the talent they've got, I think Nebraska matches up relatively well with Michigan. And then my brain started wandering into Never Neverland, and I'm like, so the rubber match is going to be to go to the Final Four. Nebraska's, we're going to win the Big Ten Conference tournament and then ultimately play them for a shot to go to the Final Four. And that'll be the story. How awesome would that be?
No, I mean, that would be amazing on a lot of levels. I think if they're playing and beat Michigan in the conference tournament, they would have an argument as to not be matching up with them in a regional final. So we'll see if that all comes to fruition. I don't know about you guys. I get there's people out there that are like, conference tournament doesn't matter. The seating's pretty much going to be locked in where they're at. There's not a lot that you can gain. Just, play your game. Don't play too many minutes. Make sure guys are fresh for the real thing. There's a part of me that would really, really appreciate if this team just went into Chicago, I think is where it is again this year, and just won the Big Ten tournament, because I would love for them to leave with something out of this season beyond everything they've already accomplished, beyond what they hope to accomplish in the NCAA tournament. The idea of this Nebraska team leaving as like Big Ten tournament champions, hanging that banner, like that would be pretty awesome. And I know there's a lot bigger and more out there. But that would be really cool. And I think, again, just like the same thing, you played them before, but turning around playing this team one day after playing somebody else, and the way that they force you to defend them and the way that they defend you, I think part of why they're such a good second half teams run out of gas. Like, they're just chasing you, and you're chasing Bryce Stanford all game. Like, people's legs are jello late in games. I think it's why they got back on Purdue and nearly won it. I know it's why they've blown out so many of these bad teams or so-so teams, because if they kind of get on you and you're starting to play on their terms, that's a tough thing to do for 40 minutes. I mean, I don't think, again, just like we don't give them enough credit for how good they are, I don't know that we give them enough credit for how good their conditioning is.
Yeah.
Like, these guys, Bryce Stanford plays like 38 minutes every night. And it's remarkable. It really is.
And he sprints 7 miles while he's
That's
doing
what they
it.
say. He sprints like 7 miles in every game, running around trying to get free. We should throw in one football question. It feels like we could just talk basketball all the time, but it is spring football time. Rule has talked to the media a couple of times. What stands out? Brett Maher, new special teams coach, spoke this week. You've had Rob Orange speak to the media. You gravitate to anything that has been said so far?
Yeah. I'll give you kind of an under-discussed thing, or at least it is to me. And it's not under-discussed because nothing is in Nebraska football, but it maybe isn't sticking out to people at this point yet. I think he's not one of the first guys that pops off of anyone's mind when you think of their transfer portal haul. But I'm pretty intrigued by Anthony Jones, just from what he kind of had to say when he got up there and spoke this week, what Roy Manning had to say about him, with what we've heard about Rob Orich's system and how they've been able to generate pressure. Nebraska didn't really have a guy that has the wealth of experience that he does. He's physically gifted. Again, I'm not expecting him to go have like this monster 10-sack season, but could he be someone that, in the vein of like a Jamari Butler? Yeah, I don't think people remember. Like you got to have guys like that. But Nebraska didn't have that this past year, and it really hurt him. And you wouldn't have said to yourself, yeah, Jamari Butler was super valuable in 23 and 24 just based on his numbers. But then you go and you look at it, and it's like he had, I think, in those 2 seasons, like 9 sacks. And I can think of multiple times, like against Ohio State, where he made great individual effort plays and wrecked things against top teams. Like if you could get that sort of performance, I was going to say MJ Sherman, but I think it could be even a little bit better than that. Like if you can get that opposite of Williams Nwaneri, and then the guys can kind of go to work inside, we're talking about a huge difference that would make on your defense as a whole. And so I thought he was a pretty mature guy. We all made the jokes about 5 Big Ten schools and 5 different years and what this portal era is and et cetera, et cetera. It's a pretty mature, press conference from him. And I'm just intrigued. Like I said, this isn't, the A1 story for a lot of people, but it could have a nice effect on Nebraska if he settles in as a strong, defensive player for you up on that front.
There you go. Mike Schaefer of Husker Max and the Unemployed podcast as well. Love having him on. We'll have you back soon, hopefully.
Hey, guys, I appreciate it. Anytime. You know that.
There you go.
Thanks, Mike.
Mike Schaefer. He's the best. Makes me giggle. There's always 1 or 2 times during an appearance where he just makes me laugh by the way he says things or what he says.
Well, the matter of factness as well is just
he's funny. He's a funny dude.
There's no spin. It's just, hey, let me tell you some facts. And the facts maybe you didn't think of before, and now your brain's really spinning because you're like, man, he's right.
Let's get to break. Come back with one final segment of Husker Rewind. Mike Melby, Tom Stevens, back with more after this.
You're listening to with Tom Stevens and Mike Melby.
It is cold. The winter has gone south. I mean, the weather has gone south, or whatever it is. It's cold enough to make a brass monkey clink, I'll tell you that.
On Lincoln's Husker Radio, 1499.3 KLIN.
Welcome back in. Happy Sunday. Early evening now, we'll call it, 6:45. We've got about 14 minutes left here on this edition of Husker Rewind. My name is Mike Melby. That is Tom Stevens.
Hello.
And kind of cruising through Twitter, I came across an account that I started following that does a lot of really cool stuff. And then Caleb Henry happened upon it. He reposted something, Big Ten tournament seeding probabilities, March 1st update. It has Michigan as 100% the number 1 seed. For the number 2 seed, it has Nebraska at 80%, Michigan State 19%, and nobody else has a chance.
Say that again.
So according to
Michigan number 1, I got all that.
Yeah, Michigan number 1, and this is percent chance to be the 2 seed. Michigan State has a 19% chance. Nebraska an 80% chance
for a 2 seed.
For a 2 seed in the tournament, the Big Ten tournament.
Oh, okay.
Which I'm happy with that. We'd take a 2 seed,
a
2 or a 3.
Triple buy is more important.
Yeah, 2 or a 3. Well, I want the 2 or 3. I want to try to make sure we avoid Michigan until title game.
Yeah.
One of the things that we've talked about a little bit on the show in the last few weeks is a book. And I spent 15 years traveling around the country with the Lincoln Stars, and I've been asked numerous times, when am I going to write the book, the tell-all book? Well, for those that want an inside look at Nebraska athletics, and you want somebody to give you all the dirt and give you that peek behind the curtain, Bill Moose did so in a book that is available on Amazon. It's like $13. Crab Creek Chronicles, from the wheat fields to the ball fields and beyond. Now, I'm still getting through the entire thing. I've read probably 85% of it. All I'm going to say is there are some very revealing, and I'm going to say this with this caveat. There's truth to probably both sides of whatever the story was. But if you don't want to worry about the first 533 pages because you don't really care about Bill Moose's career prior to Nebraska, I'm going to tell you, go to page 534. There's 683 total pages. Go to page 534 and start reading. And you'll learn about kind of some innuendo and stuff going on at Washington State where he was at, and he might be getting forced out and wasn't sure what was going on, and then the phone call. And the end of the chapter is, and he told me, you're the new athletic director of the University of Nebraska. And then it goes into, there is no place like Nebraska chapter. There are things, the excerpts that have been revealed. One of them that I read before I read it in the book was that essentially Jim Pillen stepped in when Bill Moose had been rumored to have the thought of relieving Tim Miles of his duties. He'd been reached out to by Dana Altman's people that he had an interest. The interest was explained to him why it was there.
That's always interesting to me because I'd always heard that Dana Altman wasn't interested at all.
Well,
in the Nebraska gig.
In the book, it basically states that he was called into a meeting that was Ronnie Green and Hank Bounds and Jim Pillen. And when he informed Mr. Pillen that he wanted to hire Dana Altman, Mr. Pillen just said no. And that was the end of the conversation. And like I said, there's probably truth. There may be some more stuff that was said that's not in the book. I don't know. All I know is what I read, but it is
and I wanted Dana
look.
Altman, but I'll take Fred Hoiberg over Dana Altman right now.
I would have taken Fred over Dana Altman if you would have said, hey, Nebraska's 2 candidates are these 2 guys.
Right.
I would have preferred Fred Hoiberg, just based on the fact that I don't know. There's just something about the way his offense is run. Like just going back and remembering his Iowa State teams and all. It is just an amazing brand of basketball that I know you and I love, because when you went from Mo Iba to Danny Nee, I know Mo was a family friend of yours and a great human being.
I love Mo Iba and the kids.
And
Cindy Ibo, great lady.
But his offensive prowess was not a lot of fun to cheer for.
No.
And then Danny came in and it was run and gun, but like
slow-mo, they call it.
Yeah. And to Fred's credit, like everybody's commenting about how beautiful this offense is, and it is.
But again, it's something that we don't talk about enough. His tenure at Nebraska has changed since he embraced defense. He was always a great offensive coach. He didn't always get the right parts for the offense that he wanted to run. And a lot of it didn't make sense. Cam Mack was a brilliant assist guy, but he didn't make a lot of sense in the way he did some things. And I'm picking on Cam, and that's unfair.
His last 10 games, he was. The first 20 games, though, he was all about Cam Mack and scoring or turning the ball over.
Yeah, and it's not just, I mean, I don't want to pick on any one guy because there were a lot of parts that didn't work the first 3 years. And Matt Abdelmassi was the architect of that roster.
Yeah.
And he did a great job at Iowa State. But Iowa State was one of the very first schools that went very hard into the transfer portal because nobody else was doing it. They were. And he tried to bring that formula to Nebraska after everybody was doing it.
Well, and
so you didn't get the pick of the litter.
Well, but they got who they wanted. The flip side is, where's Matt Abdelmassi now? Fired at St. John's for misappropriation of NIL funds.
Yeah.
So when I
had
read
a nice
that
run last year,
here's what I can say. When I read that, I was not surprised.
No.
And I'm very happy that he was ousted at Nebraska when he was.
I wonder if Fred is going to get asked about that at some point. Because he and Matt are, I think, close still.
Well, I'm sure, you know, I don't know why you'd ask. I mean, it happened at St. John's, and you know, there's never been any public accusation of anything or any wrongdoing at Nebraska. So I don't know that but from a, hey, I know he's your friend. I'm sure Fred would basically say, hey, he's a great human being. And because that's who Fred is.
He was a great recruiter. Great article today, if you haven't read it, by Evan Bland of the Omaha World Herald and Emmett Johnson, who is participating in the NFL Combine. The All-American running back ran the 40 in 4.56, which is not great. I think he ran it in 4.6 the first time and then did it again and ran it 4.56.
Yep.
He was the only running back to go through the 3-cone drill and run a decent time there, and he had the top shuttle run. So that's what the one thing that we've always known about Emmett is he's really quick and fast laterally, but his straight ahead speed is not going to be first round draft material.
No, and it was interesting because they asked him, they're like, dude, why are you doing everything? And I loved his response, which was essentially, I'm going to paraphrase, everybody's doubted me my whole life. I've had to prove that I'm as good as I know I am to everybody time and time again, and I'm just doing it once again.
Right.
I want if you want me to start throwing like a quarterback, I don't care. He didn't say that, but he's like, I will do everything I can to prove to people that I deserve an opportunity and I deserve to go prove how good I am.
He's one of those guys that's not going to be a first rounder, but in 3 years in the NFL, maybe 2, he's going to be playing like, why didn't somebody draft him in the first round? It feels like he's that type of guy because he'll get on the field. I don't think he'll make a lot of mistakes. He's a pretty good in pass protection, although that has been one of the knocks against him, I guess, according to the draft grades that I've seen. But he's durable like all get out. I mean, I think he proved that this year.
Yeah.
We're like, who's behind Emmett? Well, it doesn't matter because he never leaves the field and he never gets injured. And he was an All-American, by the way. First All-American in years. First team All Big Ten. He was Big Ten running back of the year. Ran for 1,400 yards, 46 catches for 370. So he could do a little bit of everything. But anyway, the draft runs April 23rd through the 25th in Pittsburgh this year. I love this. When asked if he has a chip on his shoulder, he says, like a box of Pringles on my shoulder.
Yeah. It ain't just a chip.
Not just a chip.
And that alludes to the comment of, if you want me to go hula hoop for 45 straight minutes and count how many times I get the hoop around my waist without it fall, I'll do it. I don't care. Just let me prove to you how good I am.
He's good. He's good. I love Emmett. Wish he were coming back, but I'm not that worried. You mentioned Mosey. I think Mekhi Nelson. I think, Connor Booth is a guy. I think Nebraska is going to be fine. Jamal Rule might end up being the starter by midseason.
That's what I said last hour. I was like, don't be surprised. But that's not knocking Mekhi Nelson. Just everything we've heard about Jamal Rule is that the thing that whenever a coach says or does not say that the running back has great vision, it's worrisome. And one of the very first things that's always mentioned with Jamal Rule by any of the coaches so far, oh, he's got great vision. His vision is really good.
Yeah.
Okay. There were times in a little bit of a knock from me about Emmett Johnson. He could have had 500 more yards last year if he simply would have glanced a little left or a little right, and he had a 97-foot wide hole to go run through, and instead he just ran right into a pile.
Yeah.
You didn't do it often, but there's 4, 5, 6 times that you're just like, man, you could have had a whatever.
Well, Mekhi Nelson intrigues me because he's not the biggest guy, but he made that run for a touchdown in the bowl game, and against Utah. And I don't think Emmett could have made that run for a touchdown.
Dana Holgerson said.
Yeah, the cutback on that, his speed really shows. Is he big enough? I don't know. Emmett was only 200.
Yeah.
I think it's more about toughness than it is about how big you are.
From a running back standpoint, I'll tell you right now, the running backs that get hurt are the running backs that get hit. And I'm not talking about you're always going to get hit. The running backs that hit first.
And because of angles, Emmett never got hit.
Yeah, and the running backs that hit first, if they have the ability to get those angles and not take the direct shots, but when they initiate contact, they don't get hurt very often.
Yep.
And the best ever that I saw at that was Mike Rozier. Second best, Larry Phillips. Those two initiated contact with everybody.
Yep.
And never got hurt.
Yeah, those are two pretty good examples of great running backs at Nebraska for sure. 9-8 thriller on Friday. Nebraska baseball team beats number 7 Auburn. You thought maybe this has a chance to be a special weekend, but it wasn't. Auburn won last night 15-4. They run-ruled Nebraska. Then today, 12 walks by Nebraska pitchers, 3 hit batters, and they fall 12-3 to Auburn. So not great, especially the way it started. You might have taken one had they lost the first game, but you were thinking you got to win the series now. Go get it. But nonetheless, they did beat the 7th ranked team in the country on Friday night and now have beaten 2 top 15 teams. Could have done better, but they didn't.
Huge week. Baseball, softball, both with their home openers this weekend. And you got basketball senior night next Sunday.
We won't have a show next week because of Iowa.
No, we're going to be partying in the streets after we smoke them.
Oh, I can't wait. I don't like Iowa. Have I mentioned that? Don't like Creighton? Don't like Iowa. All right. We will not see you next week. We're 2 weeks away from talking to you again. Bye-bye.
See you.